Hi, I'm so sorry. I was on mute. But yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Pink. Hi, Harish. Hi, Abhishek. Hi, Mr. Pink again. I am so sorry I was on mute. But yeah, I was just addressing. There was a poll that was taken, and it's at the top of the chat. And it says 53% of the people who casted their vote have read Mouse, which is great. Um, yes. Um, so we'll just start with. So today is the. Okay, I'm so I can hear myself twice. Yeah. So let me know how many of you guys who are joining have read Mouse, the book of the month. And we also had Watchmen. So I don't know how many of you read both these books, but obviously Mouse was the preferential read majorly because it was the first book of the syllabus or the primary book of the syllabus. But hey, that's nice. So many new people are joining. Hi Dheeraj. Hi Himanshu. Hi Aniket. Hi Himanshu. Again. Oh, he's first time here. And Sagar is also here. I'm so sorry. I'm a little nervous because I started the stream and my audio was on mute. And now I'm just stammering and speaking whatever is coming in my head. Uh, hey, and Gandhitheria marked his presence by liking the stream. That's amazing, guys. Please like this stream. The more you like the stream, the more it gets recommended. And just that's just how the YouTube algorithm works. So it'll be really amazing if you guys could like the stream as soon as you come and mark your attendance, presence by liking the stream. But hey, Aniket has read both. That's amazing. I finished Mouse last week. How many of you have read Mouse? How many of you have read only Watchmen? And how many of you have read both? Um, would really want to know that before we get started. Great. So I also did a video on Mouse. I'll soon be doing a video on Watchmen as well, but I thought I'd actually also watch adaptations and a few more material surrounding Watchmen before I come on and make a video about it. But yeah, I read Mouse, and that is the book that we'll be discussing first. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. And there are so many people, and it was really nice to see how many people actually participated in this particular book a month, not just picked up the book, but also wrote back to us about the book. And I don't know, I think this is therefore, according to me, one of the most successful months we've had because so many people engaged, not only by reading, but also by commenting and regularly posting in emails and groups and Discord server pay. Regularly, there was conversation about this book. So I'm particularly happy. Uh, hey, I was so Mouse comes in two volumes for all of you who I saw. Someone commented I read it in two volumes. So there were a few people who were a little confused. So it actually has uh, two volumes, Mouse 1, Mouse 2. The complete Mouse has both these things. And I made a video about it. And that's when I came to know Nerd Writer has also done a video on Mouse. And it's beautiful. He talks to you how different panels of Mouse make sense. On the surface, you might just think it's a black and white graphic novel or comic strip, but the smallest details are so refined, at even if you take at sorry, even if you consider the angle at which two characters are talking to each other, that's also very thought out. And the smallest details that he points out, for example, he takes this one scene and their art, the author, and his father are discussing about something. And the next scene takes him where his tattoo is shown, and on the side, the photograph of his mother is there. So the way he's managed to connect every panel is brilliant. And that is actually the thing about graphic novels, I think. On the surface, you think it's just, and without offending anyone, on the surface, you feel it's just a piece of art, or it's just a comic strip that's out there for children. But if you actually invest time in it, it probably takes up more time and effort and energy than a normal book with words, because the amount of effort people put in to refine every frame is immense. But yeah, we have some amazing conversations lined up for you. There are a few people who are going to join us for the discussion of Mouse. Um, And yeah, I'll just let them in a bit. If someone has not read both, should he watch this live? Definitely, Himanshu, you should. I mean, you'll probably get inspired to pick up Mouse and Watchmen. Mouse is something that triggers almost everyone. If someone loves words, it'll do its role. If someone loves pictures, and also it'll do its job. Yeah, I don't know, but there was this someone had pointed it out how the graphic novel Mouse does not take itself seriously um, because there's no continuous narration. The narrator tends to go back and forth in time, and even in discussion, they might be talking about something that's very serious, and they might eventually, like, immediately jump off from that conversation to something as trivial as telephone wires. And again, to show humans as animals is something that that particular individual just felt very wrong, and he said that I feel this is the reason why this particular novel Mouse, I feel, does not take itself too seriously. But I think that is the beauty of this book. It as a reader, and if you're someone who has read about Holocaust and events like that, you know how much it affects the individual, or once you pick up something that's related to Holocaust or events like this, you realize how much even a small reading of such events will affect you. And therefore, I feel Mouse has done a great job because it kind of detaches you or takes you away from that event. And therefore, you know the pain that is caused, but you won't be as affected as you would have been had they been real humans, or had they been a regular conversation. And that's why I feel Mouse is one of the most brilliantly written books about Holocaust. But yes, I'm so sorry. So I'm so happy. People, please like the stream. 70 people are watching us right now, and there are 72 likes. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I am a fresher reader. Just started reading Kafka. Please give me some tips. Hey, just keep on reading regularly, dude. That's nice. Kush is in the comments. Hi, Kush. Hi, Kabir. Why do you think out of all the animals and narrator, the artistic mouse is the main character? I think it has, there's another, oh, that brings me to a recommendation. There is a book that, I'm forgetting, that the author, the creator of Mouse, Art Spiegelman wrote. It's called Meta Mouse, and it explains to you how every frame or how every decision came into being about Mouse. So he tells you why he actually wrote Jews as created Jews as mice, showed Germans as cats, and so on and so forth. Um, okay, I missed a comment, I think. But yeah, hey, Shivam is in the comments. Varun has completed half of the book. He'll complete it soon. That's amazing. We also will be discussing Watchmen with some experts, as I'd like to call them, because they're very passionate about DC Comics and Watchmen in general. And stay tuned until the end of the stream because I will be revealing the book of the month. And let me know what you think the book of the month is going to be. And maybe in between the stream, I can drop a few hints as well. But without wasting your time, I am going to invite all the people who are here for Mouse. So we have, I'm so thrilled that there were so many people who actually finished Mouse and wrote back and participated in a number of discussions that happened over emails, Discord, WhatsApp. It's unending, but it's amazing. So if Anurag, Piyu, Ritik, Vinay, Noel, and Hindol, if you guys can unmute yourself and show your videos as well, show yourself, it'll be amazing. Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
hi.
Hi.
Hello. I think Hindol is also here. Hindol, can you please turn on your video and your audio if you can hear us? Noel is just going to join.
Hello. Hey, hi.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
so glad there are so many people for
Yeah.
the first time in a book discussion stream. And we also have another stream to go right now, like
Yeah.
another discussion to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting. Noel will also be joining. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Mhm.
But so we have Vinay today and Ritik today, Anurag, Piyu, Hindal. Vinay, where are you joining us from?
Delhi. I live in Delhi.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what about you, Ritik?
I'm joining from Noida.
Noida. Anurag, have you ever done a live stream with us?
Nah, I think this is the first time
Mm,
I'm doing it. Actually, I'm
great,
also
great.
from
Anurag,
Delhi. So that's sahi hai.
सही है.
nice. We also specialize in reuniting people from different parts of the
Hey.
world. And Piyu, what about you? Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Pune.
Pune.
Oh, I was
And
in
then
Pune also.
Oh,
Sorry.
amazing. I think there's some problem with Noel. He'll take some time to join. And Hindal is joining us from,
Purgatory.
sorry?
Purgatory.
वहाँ नहीं
No.
गया मैं कभी.
Huh. It's a great
Amazing.
place to be. Yeah.
But yeah, so how did you guys like Mouse? Do you have your copies right now, or like did anyone make notes for the stream? I made the notes. The first time we had the book discussion stream, I made notes very religiously. Uske baad I stopped.
Mine is an EPUB. I can't show the copy.
mine is also just around the corner. I can just
No,
get it.
no problem. So
Fine.
how
I
did you
made
guys
some
like the?
sticky notes.
Hey, that's amazing. I expected that from you actually. Were there any
And
frames in for? Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Anurag is an illustrator and a graphic designer. He conducted a very successful graphic design workshop with us this month itself, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it was wonderful. So I expected that from you, Anurag. Notes and
maybe.
everything. Yeah. So
Okay.
what
I'm
were
not a
your
good note
favorite parts?
maker.
Okay.
हाँ, मतलब before disclaimer, I'm not a good note maker. I think this was just to remind me कि इतनी भारी book में से क्या क्या बोलना है. So that is the reason why. So favorite part from a very different perspective. I never have read a black and white kind of graphic novel. हमेशा I was more inclined towards जो illustrative होते हैं, बहुत ही खतरनाक. But ये पहली बार पढ़ने के बाद मेरा तो मतलब दिमाग एकदम हो गया. From artistic point of view, बहुत अच्छे अच्छे frames बनाए हुए हैं. I think Vaani, you have described as well. कि एक छोटी सी कहानी को दिखाने के लिए, for example, this frame at page number 34, मतलब when they show the flag,
Yeah.
the amount of detailing to describe an event, to express that small event is kind of interesting. And I think I was mostly hit by the storyline rather than the illustration, क्योंकि वो एक टाइम बाद चला जाता है. The story is so hard hitting कि you forget the artwork and you're inside the storyline. So वो बहुत interesting part थे. कई सारी चीजें मुझे समझ भी नहीं आई थी. We can discuss that as well. जैसे why are people using mask? What's the interpretation? What do you guys think? And there was one point as well when अचानक से story drop होती है और वो अपने art work station में बैठा होता है with a mask and drawing something. So वो वाला scenario बहुत ही hard hitting था. वो भी मुझे, yeah, I want to hear your views on that.
Nice. What about you, Noel? You just joined us right now. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Where are you joining us from, first of all?
I'm from Thane, which is just outside Bombay. So I'm joining in from my home. So
And what did you like about we were just discussing what our favorite parts were about Mouse. We were discussing our notes.
oh yeah, just the general very hard hitting, very well. It I had this one weird observation that Vladek would make a very good Nazi. Like he's he's got those characteristics of a person who would make a good Nazi, and it's just the matter of like how he came about that. It's just a matter of fate that he's not one, honestly. Like
Why would you say so? Yeah.
because he is neat, he's very organized, he's got prejudices as well. Like he's got all those traits that you associate with a Nazi, and honestly, that
Controversial हो जाएगा statement.
Sorry.
बहुत controversial statement हो जाएगा ये.
No, he does seem he has those. I mean, the whole thing about this
Yeah.
hitchhiker that
But
they
I
get in and
think
all.
there is a scene as well where Art's Spiegelman himself. I always forget his second name, so I have to look down constantly.
Oh no, that's okay.
He calls him out in one scene as well. I think where they uh, give a lift to a
Yeah, that
person of
one.
color,
Yeah.
and yeah, he calls him out for the same thing. But I think yeah, that is something even we face a lot in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
What about you? Sorry, no, you were saying something?
yeah, I was also wondering if, like, there's one point where Art Spiegelman also mentions that Vladek would do anything to get what he wants, na? Or like at least you get that feeling. So it almost makes you wonder, is he a reliable narrator also? Like, are there parts that he's hiding? Because in the beginning of the book also he says that, okay, there's some parts that I don't want you to tell the world. There's, it's parts which are not related to the Holocaust or Germany and all. So it
Right.
makes me wonder whether what he's telling us, is it entirely the truth? Has he dropped out some details, etc. That's
But
it.
what kind of details could he possibly drop out?
I don't know. I didn't give a lot of thought to that, but just maybe there's some parts of the deals, like he cracked a lot of deals, during the Holocaust. Or maybe there's some parts he genuinely didn't say. Like, maybe he did something bad to another Jew. He dropped some, like he always mentions that, oh, we don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared. We didn't hear about it. So what if there is, like, in one particular case, that what if there's someone that he sold out to Jew? That he helped the Gestapo somewhere or something and sort of
And also the
Right.
narrative
got
about
extra
the
soup
mother,
for it.
Anya.
This na Anya na, yeah,
Anya,
that was
उसके बारे
really
में भी
good.
जब नहीं बताया था, it's like क्यों disclose किया?
I thought they would reveal that towards the end, but like nahi
Yeah.
hua wo.
Yeah.
Like he really burned the books, which is very suspicious.
I liked that particular part जो अनुराग अभी बता रहे थे where he is sitting in his workshop, and I think it's the beginning of part 2 where
Exactly.
everyone is approaching him for the film, and we want to make a film. What are your opinions on this? And he just realizes I just put it out because I wanted to tell the story of my father. And you see him in front of a psychiatrist. He becomes a very small child and he's
Small boy.
crying and sobbing, and then he starts walking outside, and the slow transition into an adult was
Yeah,
also hard. Yeah.
that part sort of made me wonder that so many times when we start dissecting art or anything, we forget that it's a personal story, and like
Exactly.
all this thing of art being open to interpretation makes us forget कि यार ये किसी का life था, and there is an emotional quotient attached to him. So, it,
What about you, Pio? What was your favorite part in the book?
My favorite part was actually the sweetest part where he goes to meet his father towards the end of the book. First part actually where his wife accompanies him, and he how his wife has gotten into the whole structure and supporting the whole balance between the father and the son. That part was very very nice. I mean, after such a long journey of seeing people getting dumped into gas chambers, of separations, of deaths, that was like a nice segue from everything, which brought everything back to life, that okay, there are still things that are good in the world. So that was my favorite part, as in the good part of it. But it was really nice to see how everything was drawn in a way to make us separate us from the actual story, but to just engage us into it more. So like what you were saying, that the Poles were depicted, the Pole Jews were depicted as mouse. If you look at it, it is primarily the characteristics. So the cat and the mice story, it is not just another cat and mice story, but yes, the mice are being hunted by the cats who are depicted as German. So it is very thoughtfully placed. It could have been any other animal, but cat and mouse was really nice. That is
उसी
something that
उसी
also
topic
hit.
पे, the cat, for example, the cat, the Nazi armies, उनका, there was a shadow in their eye basically to depict that there are dark. Or for example, mouse were like proper eyes. So they were helmet के नीचे shadow बना के जो white, just to show the sinister part of that. So if you open any Nazi,
We're just
soldier,
referencing classes, opening the books and checking.
yeah, I
yeah.
didn't
So
notice
that was
that.
quite interesting, like small things to depict
Yeah.
the humanity side. Or so cats on this side is like corrupt, and mouse or the Jews are proper humans and all.
Right. Just saw it, yes. What about you, Ritik? What was your favorite part?
Yeah, am I audible, first of all?
Yeah. We can
Okay.
hear you well.
Yeah, so I actually had written a research paper on mouse back in the university, very rudimentary, but so yeah, and I think one of the major things which struck me was, first of all, the artwork, for the main reason that it's not very pretty to look at. It's very expressionistic, hard strokes, and especially some of the areas like on page 159. There's this section that they're showing the surveillance and things like that. This area is very, the visual itself, even if you don't read the what's happening, it's very unsettling. And so one was that, with the paneling and the arching themes. And in addition, I guess the other thing which interested me the most, and I really liked it, was the fact that Spiegelman kind of had this narrative of how his family, his friends talk, and especially when his father, and is speaking about the Holocaust. It's not just about the Holocaust, but it's the idiosyncratic, the tendencies, how a father and a son, or how family members would talk, where it's not really related to the main theme of Holocaust or tragedy, but it's also the it's very sardonic to me, because it's showcasing that small moments where, even though you're talking about death and tragedy, you want cleanliness in your house and you want to work. There's a section where he says that you go up, wait for me, I'll just finish my work and come up. So that was very sardonic, and I think it's very interesting that you were saying that there was somebody who didn't like the fact that it's comedic, and it was interesting to me, because I always saw Mouse as kind of a dark comedy, because reading it, I just thought that it's so bizarre to live in that time, when that separatist mentality, and and death and tragedy is so common. And just by wearing a mask, when he also shows that there's a string attached, that just by wearing a mask they can they can merge with the Nazis. And it's so sardonic, the fact that they believe and they in the comics they believe that they're descendant of Aryans, and the fact that the better versions of as humans, but then it's just the mask is the only thing that takes two different, apparently dominant Nazis and the mice to merge just by a mask. So I found it very sardonic, and I think that allows more interpretations into understanding that mentality. So yeah, and I think that was there. And I think the last thing would be, I don't know, please let me know if I'm going on for too long. So so I think the last thing would be how he uses memories, because there's a continuous theme of memory, and his mother suffers from postpartum depression, and because it's divided into this frame narrative and two different narrative lines. So it for me talks about idea of myth and about storytelling itself, because it's not really, it's Spiegelman is we are living the through the times of Holocaust through Spiegelman's writings, but then the memories are of his father. So it's very meta, very almost like commentary on storytelling and myth, and how memory plays against our against other things, and how memories and time is the only thing which is constant in understanding truth and what actually happened during that time. So yeah.
Oh man, my points are so much more shallow than Ritik's.
No. We're coming to you next. What do you think of Mouse?
I have a simple minor point and a major point. So the minor point is this back cover. Never have I been so impressed. So this back cover was so useful. So the moment the author says Sosnowiec, if I'm pronouncing it right, and it's in the light green part that's annexed to Germany, and that's where they were attacked. from. So this was super helpful. I could immediately see, अच्छा, Sosnowiec से Auschwitz कितना दूर है, war सब कुछ कितना दूर है. This was pretty useful.
Right.
The major point was the thrill this book has. Even though you know Vladek survived, I mean, the way he survived, the ingenious ways he uses to survive. And then when the book says कि ये बंदा Auschwitz जा रहा है, I thought that was he was not going to Auschwitz. वो बाहर से रह के उसने देखा है. But when he survived there, I was like, ये बंदा पागल है. He's too good. So for me, it was that thrill, because if the depth was too depressing and I was recovering from COVID, so I was like, okay, this is too depressing. So let me just stick to the thrill part of it. So for me, that
Nice.
was the book. Yeah.
What about you, Hindor?
Yeah, so before I talk about the book, I just want to say that this is the first book that I've read completely this year. So yeah, credit to a book a month. And yeah, this feels like a rehab clinic for somebody. But yeah, and it helped that I'd read it earlier as well. So I'm going to take it slightly away from the book because so I read an interview where some filmmaker said, "I'm not a slave to reality," and like I was just thinking about that comment, and then I started reading this book, and then I kind of realized what he meant, because the whole magic realism route that they took, it made it so much more interesting. I mean, we have seen Holocaust movies, we've seen stuff like Life is Beautiful, where they have to take an entirely comedic fun route to kind of humanize the Holocaust. But for to depict it in its true grit and glory, for whatever it was, and also making it kind of a surreal experience, like how Vinay was saying that will he, won't he survive, because at a point I've kind of felt that it's also possible that Spiegelman turns out to be a ghost the entire time and he's just narrating out of somewhere,
Yeah.
because he had taken it in that surreal space. And Anurag had mentioned the frames, like there are certain frames which really do the magic realism bit well, like the one we discussed that day, that they come out of the concentration camp and they're going towards a path and it's uncertain, and you see the crossroads, they form a swastika. Then there's another bit where the father and son, they're walking in the forest, and he talks about the Jews being hanged, and you see the Jews being hanged in the background and they're just walking in front of them. So those things were pretty interesting. And yeah, plot wise, yeah, again, the thing that we were discussing, why mice were chosen and those things, there's that conversation with his girlfriend where she asks, what will you draw me as, which animal would you draw me as, and that was very interesting. Like that's where the book kind of took the meta this thing. Before, I think it was before chapter 2 or something, chapter 2 was sorry, volume 2 was entirely the whole self dialogue, where he's, what is the purpose of whatever I'm doing, whether this will, should I sell the film rights and those things. And the kind of influence this book has, I think Bojack and all these shows that have now taken this kind of dark surreal space have definitely taken inspiration from Mouse. So yeah, that those were my 5 cents on the top. Yeah.
I was reading about the book when I was so I did this episode I think last week. Yeah. Um, and I read about the book a lot. I read about Art Spiegelman a lot, and there are so many people that we've looked up to. I don't remember the name of the guy, but who did the comic strip called Bones.
Hmm.
He also drew inspiration from Art Spiegelman. I was like, I didn't know, like, this guy was huge. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of people we probably look up to are the pop culture icons have drawn inspiration from Mouse. And I was like, nice choice for a book a month. But yeah, that was it. But I was actually, there was this person who had emailed us, and he said, I think the guy did not take himself seriously. What are, because of the certain humor that he adds to the book, what are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
I didn't get the question. Like, in what
So
sense did he not?
he said, yeah, because because every movie, every
Hmm.
piece of art that you know about Holocaust, that has come out of Holocaust, you talk about the Diary of a Young Girl, everything is serious.
Hmm.
But here, this guy is describing to you the life of Jews in Holocaust, before Holocaust, and he constantly jumps from past into future, and there's this, so his father will be telling you a story and he'll just immediately jump to, oh, you know what, I need to get this, or throw your blazer away, or where are my matchsticks. It's the conversation just stares off. So it
Correct.
was upon the author to actually to take away from that, what he takes away from that conversation and puts in the book. So this guy who wrote the email to us said that I just think he did not take himself very seriously, or he did not take the matter he was writing about very seriously. Also, the fact that there were no proper humans, but there were mice and cats, etc., animals portraying humans. This is something I completely disagree with. But
Yeah,
what are
even
your
I
thoughts on that?
disagree with this. Sorry, I'm just I had a point which I remembered now. So the one pop culture item that I kept remembering while reading the book, especially the father-son relationship, was the movie The Namesake. And now, would you say that the book is the movie is talking about Gogol's experiences and it is not taking it seriously? No, you won't say that. I think the entire point of the whole meta-ness and the present-day narrative was to show that Art Spiegelman feels that he has an important story to tell, but he is much smaller in the whole scheme of things. He has to fulfill a larger purpose, and he has his own existential thing. Like you said, Diary of a Young Girl and all these things, these were stories told by people who were in the Holocaust directly. Art Spiegelman wasn't. He came much later. He's trying to understand a time when he wasn't there, which is the takeaway I had from the whole mask bit. Like, why did certain people start wearing masks? I think like it was a kind of symbol to show that they are now in their shoes. They're trying to understand what really transpired. So yeah, I disagree with the fact that he wasn't taking himself seriously.
Yeah. I think.
Initially, I have a
Go
very
ahead.
small point.
Yeah, yeah.
Initially, I was a little irked by this past-present thing that Art Spiegelman does, but at a later point, I realized that this was needed for us to get a perspective of how a person who was never there feels. And so, when he calls Vladek miser and he hates his behavioral traits, but then it's very important for us to get that context. So at a later point, I thought it made a lot of sense, and it gives a chapter break also.
Yeah,
The
I
present.
agree with Vinay. I think we are not used to this kind of narrative style. तो शुरुआत में लग रहा था कि बहुत डिसअरे है. So I was sometimes very irritated कि अभी तो अच्छी कहानी चल रही थी वहाँ की, and then you're jumping back to कि उसकी दवाई खत्म हो गई या उसको कुछ work करना है, अपने सीढ़ियाँ लगानी है, something like that. So you feel a little bit कि हाँ, but then it is needed because I think so Art Spiegelman was actually recording the entire conversation, right? तो जब वो रिकॉर्ड कर रहा होगा, उसके बाद जब बैठेगा ड्रॉ करने के लिए, तो he would be listening to कि ओ मेरी दवाई खत्म हो गई and all. So he just took all of that he recorded onto the paper in that same context of what's happening. So kind of made sense. और
I
एक
also,
जगह
I'm so sorry. I also feel that it just added a lot of character to the characters in the book as well. That was
Yeah.
it. Hansi, you
I
want to
also
put that
feel
forward?
that I mean, in the whole process, kind of the whole memoir thing is going away. I mean, it is obviously a biography, a memoir of his father. He himself did not go through it, but he's looking at it from his father's perspective, reliving the whole thing. So I don't think it is valid to, discount the whole thing and say that, he's not taking it too seriously. I mean, Holocaust is a trauma for anybody who has even read about it. Even if you even visit those concentration camps, you would feel that horror. So it is very difficult. I can imagine. um, I cannot exactly imagine, but I can imagine how difficult it was for him to just take the notes, put it on paper, and just imagine the whole thing and draw it out. I guess just
I think
put
that would
into
be easier,
perspective
right?
the author and his relationship with his father.
That would be just easier to just record and write जो उसका experience था. So
proper
उसने
transcripts.
he didn't do an easy job. और एक जगह मतलब there was this prison on the hell. I think the comic book in which they have showed humans, which was basically when Art Spiegelman, Vladek को पता चला कि Art Spiegelman has done a art book or comic book, about him, and he was quite kind of angry
Annoyed.
or surprised. Yeah,
एक,
but that is a good artwork actually.
so one more thing, I guess, regarding the thing of going between past and future, I think it sort of shows that the Holocaust is not over for Vladek. You know, it's still going on. The tremors of it are still there in his life. Like, you know, he still feels like I need to be the guy who has something to give you. कि ना कि ये सब चीज जो मैं जमा करने वाला हूँ, जो मेरे को रास्ते पे मिला, maybe a second Holocaust will start and I will need to trade for this.
और खाना
And
खत्म करो अपना.
हाँ, yeah.
Yeah.
It almost reminded me of my grandfather who used to scream at us when we wasted rice.
Yeah.
So he was like, do you know how difficult it was to get rice during the
Yeah.
emergency? And then his
Yeah.
own version of
Yeah.
history would start from there. So
Yeah.
it's very
Guys who are watching, I'm so sorry, guys who are watching us, one, please like the stream, and two, also comment down what were your favorite parts about Mouse. Yeah, please.
हाँ,
Vinay, I think you were
जो
saying something. No, yeah.
जो animal वाला part था, I think maybe I'm reading more into this, but I think maybe at some point he was sitting down and writing this, and he was like, dude, this seems so inhuman. The whole Holocaust thing seems so inhuman. I'm pretty sure that only like it would like to show animals in this is the only way, because in this point of history, humans behaved like animals. So like it makes sense to show animals, although it's weird because animals do not choose to do. Anyway, point is,
But
this is subhuman things, so let's not show humans. ऐसा उसका शायद choice
Yeah, that's a good thought actually.
But I've read that even
nicely.
Jews were considered mice by Job. I mean, it was a very common thing.
Yeah.
And
Yes. They would
and
use
yeah,
this of pest and all, no, for them.
yeah, and even
That's the reason why
Inglorious
they use
Bastards से
bugs.
पता चला था मुझे.
I
And
actually have a. I'm so sorry. Please go.
No, go ahead.
I actually have a question. I mean, we've all read about Anya in the book, and we've seen how little has been told about her and her suicide and everything. And by that also subtly bringing in the whole mental health issue perspective. Do you think Anya was actually a survivor just because she came out of Auschwitz, or would you think that she's not? Because
As in?
as in I was just
Technically,
thinking
she is.
about it. Technically, if you look at it, she's a survivor. But even after 20 years of coming out of that place, she the memories did haunt her, and she did kill herself because of those memories that did haunt her. So I was just thinking about whom could we label as survivors? The ones who've like just managed to escape out of Auschwitz, or who like Vladik, who can actually bring it out, talk to the world about it, and feel through and walk through it.
I think like Vladek also had a lot of, that's why the whole point of survivor's guilt, this phrase was brought up, right? Sometimes people felt guilty about surviving. And
Exactly.
yeah.
And also like how Noel said that the Holocaust was still going on for Vladek, and we see that he's not a very easy person to live with. Like the whole ex-wife, not the ex-wife, the current wife,
current wife.
maid, whatever this thing is going on, and a lot is unsaid about the relationship these guys had after the Holocaust. Like we know that they came to the US, they had a son, they raised him, whatever, and we see the mom only in that one bit where she comes to the author and the author is sleeping and she asks her, do you love me, or something on those lines. So I think Vladek might have had something to do with it. This is just like my interpretation.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what triggered her.
Yeah.
But एक और चीज थी, they were talking about कि those people जो survive किए, are they bad because the good were like dead? तो इसके बारे में भी बात कही थी किसी फ्रेम में कि are they bad people जो survive कर गए और अपने they survive somehow through ways of figuring out, are they bad people और जो मर गए? उसके बारे में भी बहुत खूबसूरत बात कही थी जो एक्चुअली मैं याद नहीं, एक साथ बताता हूँ.
That's an interesting point. Anya, Piyu's question is very, very interesting because Anya, we see throughout the book that she's always a scared, a very emotional person. And Vladek is the guy who always gives her life by bringing her chocolates and eggs. And he says there is life left. So it's a very interesting point.
But again, we're hearing Vladek's perspective. I mean, Anya would have had her own share of struggles in the women's concentration camp as well. So, matlab, imagine for a woman, for a weak, like physically weak woman to survive in the concentration camp, and we have just been told that there was this one other person who was helping her out mostly, so she survived. We don't know what actually happened with her. Like there could have been something that was far worse which she had recorded and Vladek didn't want people to know. So वो हो सकता है.
Yeah. And there is also like
Yeah.
once you lose someone and it's just to
Hmm.
go back and read their diaries. There are so many people like, why did he throw away his diaries? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we don't know, but obviously he talks about survivor's guilt, and that's like, imagine like you feeling bad just, and that is something that started happening abhi COVID ke times maybe. People were feeling bad because
Yeah.
I don't know, everyone you were talking to was sick,
Yeah.
and you had the privilege and you had the fortune of good health and surviving it, and you just felt bad. Survivor's guilt is very real. So, but yeah,
This is
Absolutely.
very recorded among people who survived 9/11, like people who were in the building or in the vicinity. Not just them, but also people who were detained and like had the whole
yeah,
underwent the whole torture that they went through. Like it was a modern day somewhat Holocaust for them. So yeah, survivor's guilt तो है ही. But again, I think gender politics वाला भी एक पूरा चीज है जो रह गया है बुक में से शायद पता नहीं.
I
yeah,
think
Yeah.
like for because she suffered from depression, she's had. I think her account could have been a little unreliable stylistically, you know. So what I felt was that it was more trying to understand how the experience of Holocaust is and how it continues throughout generations. But for his mother, it's more. It can become a bit different from the story of the Holocaust because she's suffered through her own challenges,
Yeah.
which plus in addition to the fact that she was a woman at that time, which is brings more problems with that. So I think so
Oh.
he's stuck.
he wanted to write, but
I think
can you hear me now?
There's some
So
disturbance.
he wanted to write, but
I'll just jump in. So जब वो अपने psychiatrist से बात करता है तब वो question पूछता है, so do you admire your father for surviving? तो फिर वो कुछ आंसर देता है and वो बोलता है कि then you think it's admirable to survive, does that mean it's not admirable not to survive?
yeah,
So that made him perplexed. फिर वो बताता है yes, lives always take the side of life and somehow the victims are blamed, but it's not the best people who survived, it's just random,
yeah.
which was like quite profound.
You also had to be very lucky in order to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this brilliant, I don't know, someone had mentioned it in the chat as well when I asked them what were their favorite parts. And there's this panel, Rituraj pointed it out, that there's this panel with his father-in-law where he says all his money could not save him. And this scene is very heartbreaking.
Yeah, and he's crying in the thing when it just says that they were taken away and all his money couldn't save him, and he's crying through the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But
Also,
what will, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Hindor.
yeah, I had a point about honesty that someone mentioned that whether this is a reliable narration or whether Radic was being honest or not. So when we think about honesty in terms of narration, we just say that he talked about his flaws, it means he's honest. But at the same time, there are a lot of things which he claims to be like almost superhuman. Like I learned tin fixing, I learned the furniture thing.
Mm.
I was like an excellent this thing. So now how reliable do you think those things can be on, because like with our own parents we have seen कि मतलब वो बोलते थे हम 40 किलोमीटर चल के स्कूल जाते थे and those kind of things. So would you discount it or I don't know, how do you approach honesty in exaggeration in this sense?
I
वो
placed like
perspective था
when,
उसका.
yeah, Anurag, please.
No, sorry, I was saying कि उसका perspective था, उसको लगता था कि उसको बहुत अच्छे से आता था. Maybe
Right.
बाकी
The
लोगों को
guy
नहीं
who
लगता
was
होगा. तो
the guy who was
When-
sleeping under that leaking
yeah.
roof knew whether he was a good
हाँ.
tin man or
Yeah.
not.
वो जैसे अगर मैं एक दिन खाना बना लिया तो मैं बेस्ट शेफ, मास्टर शेफ, तो वैसे ही शायद.
Yeah,
But I considered like I related him to my father because my father tells me all these stories. You know what we used to do. हमारे पास ये नहीं होता तो I was like maybe it was possible. He wasn't the best. He wasn't great, but he was the best. वहाँ पे वो जो अंधों में खाना राजा types.
yeah.
I was like maybe that way.
Yeah.
But what are your final like? What would you? I don't know. I hate rating books, but like, what would your final ratings be for the book? Like, where would you place it? Would you go back to it, A, and B, like out of 10, how much would you want to rate it? We'll go alphabetically. Anurag.
I will rate it out of 5, because I think I have some Polish friends as well. So I told that I have read this book and they were also. So one of my close friend was born near Auschwitz. He works with me, he's a colleague of mine. वो भी बता रहा था कि we are still figuring out, we are still coming out of this. And so I think this book has, बहुत सारी चीजें खोल दी दिमाग में. And I was into a rabbit hole of reading all about Auschwitz, and I can read about what happened and all of that. So yeah, me, I would definitely go back.
Okay, you just disappeared. But Hindol, it's your turn.
Wait, I've been bumped up. No, yeah, this is the first time I'm roll number 2. Yeah. So yeah. So I don't think I'll go back to this book because it's too strong. Like it has a very haunting quality to it, and we discussed Persepolis as well, and it's in the similar absurdism, magic realism space, and it's also about a real event. But what like I took time with Persepolis was that it became too absurd in between. Like it was about too many things at the same time, and like we said that the author probably tried to streamline it. So I think वो editing काफी उसकी सही रही थी. So yeah, I don't think I'll go back to it anytime soon. But if I don't want to rate it out of a number.
Great.
I don't think people survived the Holocaust just for a book to be
Damn
rated
it.
on the
मैंने
number.
क्या बोल दिया?
Hindol, देखिए क्या बोल दिया Hindol.
Yeah.
काट
Thank
देना.
God I'm
Life
after
and
Hindol.
death.
I'm after Hindol.
हिंडोल को
No
पहले होना
reading.
चाहिए था.
Okay.
Next,
Sorry, what?
alphabetically, N or R. I don't know what comes before N.
N.
Nice.
Sorry.
Hindol, look what you
हिंडोल ने
did.
सबको हिला दिया. Moral high ground लेके सबको हिला दिया हिंडोल ने.
That's what it intends to do. It wants to discomfort.
Noel, you are like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you're here.
No, I won't go back to read this book. Life में बहुत दुख है. It was a little scary book to begin with. Like I kept the book down after reading like 3 or 4, how many ever parts midway. And but it's got a lot of lessons. It's something that I would really recommend anyone to read. बहुत
So you haven't
अच्छी book.
finished the book?
No, I finished. I put it down and then I took it up again.
Okay.
It's like I had to
Yeah,
catch my breath.
yeah, I did. I took breaks. I also took regular breaks.
So,
What about you, Pew?
I missed the question.
Oh yeah, you just disappeared. One was, would you want to rate this book? If yes, how many? It's not a compulsion, of course. And what was the first question, guys? Indol की वजह से मैं भूल गई.
Of course, ये
Rating,
compulsion
rating.
नहीं है.
Yeah, but would you come back to the book? Would you want to read it again?
Yeah, would you want to read it again?
That is the last bit I caught, actually. Yeah. So I would rate it as 4.5, I guess, because I really missed some bits which I really wanted to know and I didn't. Maybe it was just how the book was plotted, but yeah. And I would not want to go back to it. Maybe browse through, look at the images, read some bits, but not entirely from cover to cover, because I don't want to go through that experience all over again, relive those things, and I have a very imaginative mind. I really don't want to go through that again.
you should read this book with ice cream, no?
My God, it'll melt in my hand only.
Yeah, that's another thing I was thinking about. So like I was lying down in a very weird position and trying to read this book, and all the frames were like, yeah, people are suffering, they are being gassed in the gas chambers, and then you like it just feels very subconsciously weird that you're sitting in a comfortable place, you're like you have all the comforts in your life, and you're reading about the suffering of people. Yeah, it really does that job well, that it makes you uncomfortable regardless of your comforts. Yeah, sorry.
What about you, Ritik? Like, how much would you go back to the book at all?
I will probably, because I think it is very
Thank
heavy.
God.
It is very personal. But for me, Mouse represents what art can do. How art can capture the things. a lot of themes, and it is not just it is not just about Holocaust, but it's very good storytelling for me. And so I was reading Persepolis too, and that doesn't stand out, as much as Mouse does. And for that itself, I would go back, not to enjoy Mouse, but to understand, how life was, and really go back to that point, how important art is, for commentary, for so many things. So I think, yeah, and yeah, I was mind blown by Mouse. So
Nice. What about you, Vinay? Would you want to?
No rating at all. After
Would you
Hindol,
like to go back to the book? Would you
oh
go back to the
yeah,
book?
definitely. I would love to see the panels again. I think I did not appreciate some of the panels as much as I think
Yeah.
there is a lot more to some of them. So I'll definitely go back to
Nice.
not the whole book, but flipping through some of these panels
Okay,
again.
nice. Good. So we also have a Watchmen left to discuss right now. इस बार syllabus थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो गया था because I thought mouse में हमारे पास discussion के लिए बहुत कुछ होगा because I underestimated the book. But I am so glad like Madhav and Vinayak have joined us for the panel discussion. So guys, if you hadn't read Watchmen from Vinay, Piyu, Ritik, and Hindol, please feel free if you guys want to leave because अब हम purely Watchmen discuss करेंगे.
I'll come back at the end for the next month.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, I will do that too. I really want to know. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
I'm
guys.
sorry
Thank
for
you.
everyone who has been traumatized with Reader's Guilt after this book. I don't know if that was
Reader's guilt of rating books.
yeah, Reader's Guilt is not a thing. And yeah, just to kick off, I'll leave the call. Obviously, I haven't read Watchmen, but from the
Have you?
Watchmen movie, I haven't seen the entire
Hey,
movie.
you can stay for if
Uh,
you've seen the Watchmen film because
no,
Anurag is doing the same.
I haven't seen the entire film, but there's the opening sequence which I have seen like at least 3,000 times because it's one of my favorite opening sequences of all time, and it's like the American history play with Bob Dylan's "Blowing in the Wind" playing in the
Yeah.
background, and like the Watchmen in it. So it has a very Forrest Gump like scene, but it's pretty well done. So yeah, I would recommend that. And with that, I'd take your leave. Bye.
Thanks, Indol. Bye.
Kind of.
Bye. Bye.
Vinayak, what's
Hey,
up, bro?
hi,
Hi, how are you, man?
how's everyone? I'm good.
Hey, guys, just give me 1 minute. We just finished reading Mouse and Ekdam said there'll be a transition. Now we'll be discussing Watchmen. It feels a little awkward because you were talking about Holocaust right now, but we'll be talking about this book. Hey,
Hmm.
how many of you guys in the comments have actually read the book Watchmen as well? Let us know. Hi, Mother, how are you doing?
Hi.
Hi, Vinayak.
I'm
Hi.
good, Vaani. How are you?
I'm fine as
So
well.
I guess after discussing one terrible event, we'll be discussing another fictitious terrible event. Spoilers alert. So yeah, I guess.
You have read the comic, right, Madhav?
Yeah, I
Sorry,
have
yeah.
read the comic and I have seen its adaptations also, the TV show and the Ultimate Cut, the film, the adaptation of it. So yeah.
TV show
Wow.
is still going on, right?
Sorry?
One season is out. I
TV
guess.
show is still going on.
No.
Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock was actually a sequel called comic. The TV show is actually a limited series, so it got over in November 2019, I guess. So
Is it good? The TV show,
pretty good.
like
It's a
better than
sequel.
Snyder's film. Would you say that it's a better adaptation than Snyder's Watchmen?
It's actually not an adaptation. It's more of a follow-up or a sequel, you can say. Like
Oh,
it's completely
Oh.
reimagining of the same book, and it's taking its characters to very interesting locations and places. So yeah, it's a must-watch.
hmm.
Quite flawless, I would say. But yeah. So
Vinay, you've also read the comic, right?
Yes.
And Noel, you have read the book as well, right?
Only the comic.
Should I address, like, I haven't read a lot of comics, so is it disrespectful to call these comics and not books? That's my first silly question.
Not
I'm
really.
sorry.
Nobody
Cool,
cares.
so I can go on and like, yeah. Anurag has seen the film, right?
Yes, I have
Yeah.
seen the film. But
Great.
fun fact, this was, I think this was kind of the only book which was given at like Times Magazine Top 100. So Times Magazine के Top 100 में books, graphic novel की category नहीं होती. But this was
Yeah.
like they put it as a book category में. So this is the only kind of graphic novel जिसने वो books की category में आई थी Times Magazine की top 100.
Nice.
This is the only graphic novel. Actually, the term graphic novel started, I think, around this book only, because earlier they were called comic books and they wanted to give it a bit like a prestige kind of thing. So that's why they coined the term, I guess. I mean, it was written in some of the articles I was going through.
Tonally
So, yeah.
bhi alag tha na ye from generally what comic books were.
Yeah,
There's
like
actually,
Didn't fit into that.
basically
Yeah.
Alan Moore wanted to explore the whole concept that Alan Moore used to think heroes बहुत वैसे होते हैं, इतने positive होते नहीं है. It can't be like black and white. And he wanted to explore the concept of morality. That's why I guess it's one of my favorite books. And it's one of those books which I like, जिसकी storyline मुझे visuals से ज़्यादा appeal की, and इसके visuals मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा appeal किए. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Vaibhav and I were discussing, I think it's page number 77 of this one.
Sure.
I don't know. Just give me 1 second. I'll just confirm.
You can mention the chapter, I guess, because like it's divided in 12
It will be in the
comics.
first. It's either the first chapter or the. Okay, it's I think chapter 2, but it's page number 70. It's page number 69.
Okay.
This is chapter 2, page number 69. Yep. And here he's actually throwing him out of the window.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, how he explains the story, and in the third scene you can actually imagine this happening. There's a movie with it, and I was like, oh, holy fuck. I had like goosebumps on my arm.
And
So-
even if you watch the movie like Hendall said, this is the opening sequence. It's one of the best short sequences. Like Snyder वाली मैंने देखी है, I haven't seen the TV show, but वो मेरे को भी बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता है वो पूरा shot, the way he carries it out.
Because of its faithfulness, no, like how accurate it is.
It's exactly accurate.
Yeah.
That's,
I think that's why it was.
Yeah, please,
Sorry.
Anurag.
That was easy for me because Snyder की movie में exactly the same frames are used. So exactly ये frame दिख रहा है जिसमें वो बाहर गया है, exactly movie में भी है. So easy for me to just quickly skim through the books after watching the movie because I actually knew कि क्या क्या हो रहा है और क्या क्या हो रहा है. So I think that was also one thing that we can discuss कि Snyder ने ऐसा क्यों किया.
First, like, did anyone find Watchmen very complicated? Like, this was the most complicated timeline I've seen in a comic book.
Yeah.
It's
I was a
goes
little
back and forth,
confused initially.
Jumps around.
And yeah, he did it intentionally. Like, वो चाहता था कि एकदम unadaptable हो and no one could adapt it. And like, yeah, Alan Moore was like
royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some dispute with DC Comics and its rights basically between Alan Moore and DC. I mean, so that's why he deliberately made it unfilmable. That's why there were many attempts. If you like read the documents and all, because I think Terry Gilliam was also tried directing one adaptation in 1990s, but because of the budget constraints, he couldn't. So again, due to Snyder, who made 300, which is also an adaptation of a Frank Miller graphic novel on Spartans. So because of the faithfulness and the way he made the film, that's why they kind of gave him this project, The Watchmen, and that's how he made it and it got into. But again, Alan Moore hates his adaptation because this factor only. Why? Because he never likes any adaptation. So he has like kind of disowned the film and he has no relationship with the TV shows. But for fans, it's a great thing. Like even the film and the thing. So I would say like watch all kinds of things related to it. So
Coincidentally, I'm so sorry. I'll just finish up. Coincidentally, I was also watching this TV show called Boys on Amazon Prime while reading the book, and there were like a lot of parallels. How you can corrupt superheroes, and I was very intrigued by that. Superheroes can be bad as well. Yes, Anurag. That was my only point.
No, I think that's a very good point. उसके बारे में discuss करेंगे. But one more point on Madhav's की शुरुआत में ही एलन मोर और डीसी का रिलेशनशिप खराब हो गया था. दैट इज व्हाई सो देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ इंस्टेंसेस लाइक जब वो बुक बना रहा था, वो बुक रिलीज हुई तो मर्चेंडाइज पहले निकाल दिए डीसी ने बिना बताए एलन मोर को, और फिर गेम्स निकाल दिए, और फिर राइट्स की बात हुई, उसमें भी इशू था. तो उसने बोल दिया था कि भाई अब हाथ जोड़ लिए थे उसने डीसी से कि मैं अब इसमें कुछ काम नहीं करूंगा. आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाई देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ इशू विद वॉचमैन की मूवी adaptation, and he was also asked to do Watchmen 2 as well, like the next version of Watchmen. So he easily mana kar diya.
Also the thing what Vaani you were mentioning, I think regarding the Boys, I think because like Boys and like many other shows like Invincible also, the latest Amazon Prime animated TV show. It's also like inspired by this genre of like a deconstruction of a superhero, like how. And Watchmen was among the first graphic novels. Like before this, there was only one graphic novel, which was by Frank Miller, who deconstructed Batman. Like Batman is like basic motto: he doesn't kill people, and in that comic, he's killing people, which inspired Snyder with his latest DC universe. So I think before, so that was one comic, and this was so these are like kind of like you can say the founding members of the genre, or you can subgenre, you can say with the social deconstruction of superheroes and why they're making. Also, I think one more point to be noted regarding this book is that apart from one character, rest of them are humans actually. Like they are not superheroes, technically superheroes. Only one character is, and rest of them are just like according to Alan Moore, are like mad people dressed up as clowns in a way because he wants to deconstruct them in a way. So that was the whole thing.
So do you think Batman characteristic is similar to Rorschach
Yeah.
in an oblique way?
It's a little Rorschach is a little more realistic. Basically, I think Alan Moore thought the whole thing where he acts as a vigilante at night and then he's a billionaire playboy in the morning, that doesn't work because a guy who beats up people at the night can't just go around acting all calm in the morning. That's why Rorschach, the human form, is like very weird and like disturbing.
He's like a typical beggar, like the mad people you see on the road. He's typically like that. And I think the difference between the only characteristic which matches with Batman is his like detective capabilities and the realistic persona. Because I think he's not as privileged as Batman, because there's one other character called the Night Owl who is like that privileged and have all the gadgets and all, which you can relate with Batman quality. So I guess I think the detective capability, I'm sure Rorschach is a perfect fit for Batman.
Or moral ethics bhi thode hile hue the uske, because he knew that comedian was actually uski mom ke sath kiya tha. And he was fine with it. And जब उसको पता चला तो उसने कुछ बोला नहीं, पर उसके moral ethics भी हिले हुए थे थोड़ा. I think so. And that made it a weird character.
There's a dedicated chapter for that as well, like where he describes what does he see in that. I'm forgetting the test.
Rorschach test. It's called the Rorschach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I think it's this one.
I think it's chapter 6 or 5.
Like every character's ideology and morality is so gray. You can't really support or be against anyone. Like I think one character who I did not, there were two people I did not understand. First of all, the comedian. मेरे को बिल्कुल समझ नहीं आया how did his psyche work. And the second one was the first Silk Spectre, Laurie की mom जो Sally थी. उसका भी मेरे को ज़्यादा like I could not understand what she felt and why did she still love the comedian. But apart from that, the people who I related to the most was Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan. And I just felt bad for Rorschach. Which were your favorite chapters in the book?
So regarding your thing of what is the comedian's philosophy, I think it's closer to how many stand-up comedians actually view the world, where they go so deep into the recesses of philosophy and all of that. Like Bill Hicks, I guess, is the closest comedian to the comedian. You know, like Bill Hicks is probably the best example of a comedian, a stand-up comedian who matches the comedian character. The world is messed up anyway. Like he was so close to all that war action and he saw all the hypocrisy. That his way of, like, when he comes and talks to that villain character, कोई तो character जो मर जाता है, whose murder Rorschach is implicated for. When he comes and he starts talking to this person and he just goes away, weirdly comes in. I think that point is just him trying to express कि मैंने ये सब देखा है, ठीक है, and like it's not worth saving. And many comedians tend to have that flippant attitude towards values and morals and structures and all.
And even this, okay, you can continue.
Like ironically, he is a company man, but he does not like the authority. You know, it's almost like the way he breaks rules and whatnot. So
exactly, he used to work for government, I guess. Even in there are chapters where
he's a government man, but like will break rules.
Like even the
exact वही लोग काम करते थे ना गवर्नमेंट के लिए. एक तो वो काम करता था कॉमेडियन.
Dr. Manhattan was the obvious one. Because that was like the again an allegory on nuclear power, the whole the Cold War mentality, like how the nuclear superiority was with America and why they wanted to be superior, and they just wanted to prove again that iconic line, which is like Superman is alive and he's American, like that. I think in his chapter, which it says, so which obviously stuck with everyone. So again, that's a critique of American diplomacy and all. So yeah.
Yeah, like
I just have a question for the people who've joined us. How many of you have actually read Watchmen as well, or Watchmen? Because I don't know, I didn't see a lot of people pick Watchmen, and I'm not sure why. But I think it's also, I'm so sorry, I'm running away a little away, steering away from the topic. But I also think it was probably because everyone thought it's a superhero comic, and not many people tend to take them seriously. So what would you want to like tell those people? Like, just like, how would you sell comics to them, especially of superheroes? Because Mouse was something that was completely different subject.
I
But
guess
not a lot of people, yeah.
I guess the best way to say it, how when you watch Game of Thrones, you assume it's going to be like Lord of the Rings, but then it isn't. Watchmen is the same thing. Like you assume it's going to be like Superman and Marvel and whatnot, but it's not. So just as you enjoyed the Red Wedding, you'll enjoy what happens.
So are you saying they're not good enough? Like,
No, I'm
you
just
think
saying
Marvel and
tonally
other
वैसा different है.
characters- Yeah.
Like the reason why you would discount superhero movies is because you don't like the tone. So like इधर वो तुमको अच्छा tone मिलेगा उसका.
Okay.
It is a classic actually in the end, right? उसने तो generation ही change कर दिया था. The way the storyline was written and everything. So that's, I think that's one of the reason you should read it. It's a classic and it will always be classic. उसके बाद जो storyline of जो comic books का superhero होता है, उसका क्या actually में life होता है, reality में क्या dark वो सब होता है, और बहुत सारी comics अब इसके ऊपर बनने लगी है, और सिर्फ movies और वो TV shows बनने लगे हैं. So this is something you can pick up and understand that side. Or in the end, the last line है, I leave it entirely in your hands.
Yeah.
The last frame is also epic. Meta है कि in the end it's a Rorschach test. तो हमको जो समझ आ रहा है वो तुम्हारे ऊपर ही है.
What would you say, Vinayak?
I'll just say,
Because you were smiling, it's very quiet. What would you tell? Like, what would be your pitch?
like I think it'll spoil superheroes for you a bit. I think because you can't read Watchmen and then look at Superman and Batman the same way. You'll question their actions and you'll question the situations that are shown in those stories. And basically, like कोई बच्चा देख रहा है अगर stream, then they definitely should not read Watchmen. And like yeah, and it's one of the most prettiest books I've read. The whole thing, how they go back and forth in time, and how the dialogues are like juxtaposed with the images from past. Where there's this scene where I think Laurie's talking about Dr. Manhattan with Night Owl, and they show Dr. Manhattan dressing up for this TV interview, and she's talking about him like 1 second he's there and then he's just gone. And all those things fit really well with each other. And सबकी backstories भी बहुत ज़्यादा rich हैं. Like this is definitely one of the most detailed comic books I've read.
I haven't read a lot of graphic novels or comic books, but I also loved the thought bubbles and the dialogue bubbles that they have. Like Dr. Manhattan के लिए there's a shade of blue and then with white outline.
Rorschach के में थोड़ा सा crack
to show you the monotone and the hoarse voice. I kind of loved that because it was so easy for you to imagine the voice.
Yes, exactly.
The smiley is also interesting.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
It's everywhere, and plus it's an actual image in Mars as well. The smiley.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. It's true. He, like this comic kind of predicted that, like Simpsons, that there's actually a smiley on.
Yeah. So Manhattan जब वो मार्स में होता है ना, चला जाता है छोड़ के, त्याग देता है सब कुछ, और जब वो जो बना रहा होता है अपना खुद का स्ट्रक्चर, और जब वो वहां से वो जब वो जूम आउट करता है और वापस चली जाता है वो लॉरी के साथ, then you will see a smiley. It's actually a smiley of Mars. If you Google it,
yeah,
there's actually a smiley in Mars.
A smiley on Mars. Yeah.
Which
the
is
actual
like, wow.
planet.
Exactly.
That is nice, no?
Created by the valley and the gorges, like the natural features. It's naturally made. So
yeah.
And like
so
the color palette
that proves
very
there is
different.
life on Mars.
yeah.
Dr. Manhattan मिल जाएगा वहाँ पे.
You guys Did you guys like how Dr. Manhattan's whole chapter? Like, I think that is the one place I have seen someone describe something close to God. That whole chapter of him describing his whole life, that I am here and I am here and I am here at the same time. So, as a depiction of how God looks at the world, like, that the world is a snapshot for me. वो बहुत सही लगा, like throughout वो, and that's why it was such an interesting chapter. वो एक part था.
और वो still God नहीं है.
Mythologies, no? I mean, sorry, you were saying?
He's kind of like the God character.
Yeah. हाँ, वो ऐसा बोलते हैं कि I'm the puppet जो strings देख सकता है. You are the puppet.
I am one level above you.
Yeah.
And he kind of
comment by Kabir. Sorry, Madhav, please complete your thought.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, there's a comment by Kabir. He says Bhavesh Joshi would appear very much similar to superhero if someone has read Watchmen. Would you agree? I haven't seen Bhavesh Joshi.
I haven't.
Just
it's kind of like the same.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's again a realistic take now, because I think he's also a guy who's trying to fight justice. And here, like many characters, if you read those interlude kind of chapters of, I think specifically the Old Night Owl, because there's a novel also within this comic, meta novel, which is the Under the Hood, and there are first two chapters are associated with it. So that kind of gives you the backstory of the mindset of a superhero, like what he thinks and how he thinks, like why fighting. Like it's a superpower fantasy, like being a superhero is a power fantasy. Like you can just go out, you meet people, and you feel proud of it that you are kind of helping people and all. And it's also explored in the TV show, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. Also, I think I wanted to add to Noel's point regarding the like being omnipresent at all timelines and all times basically. So I think that's also like kind of like the Hindu mythology, which is in Gita, like I'm present in the past, and so you can relate your religion also if you want to, because he's the literal God, and how like God would perceive you, because like again, like many people think that God would be like a human and he would understand my pain, but he won't, because he's feeling his own pains at different timelines.
I don't like clothes also. Like वो वाला चीज़ है उसका. He doesn't even like clothes. He's so not related to you.
Exactly. Yeah. That's also one damn cool thing.
Like मैं exactly Dr. Manhattan को God की तरह नहीं देख पाया, because he still had the residual human confusion within him. He kept asking himself who to blame, what's right
in the context of the character.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
the exaggerated version of Superman.
He was like a man if he suddenly became a god.
Exactly.
Like he kept questioning the universe. What's happening? And
like, I mean, it's like kind of like Bruce Almighty, but a very extreme version of it. Like you'll be trying to figure out how to use the power and how to relate to human, because that's what's the problem. He can't relate with Lottie, he couldn't relate with his wife, he couldn't relate with people also, like the emotion and all. And he was his humanity. I think that's what like Ozymandias took advantage of it, like with Tachyons and his humanity, because he struck his emotions by creating fake, creating a conspiracy out of those cancer patients, out of his like close ones, like that they were suffering from cancer, and his humanity was the one which made him question and made him go on in exile, so that Ozymandias could complete his plan.
I think like Dr. Manhattan was that guy who had the powers of a god, but he thought like a human. Ozymandias was a normal human. He considered himself kind of a god.
He had the
because
god
he wanted
complex,
to make the decisions for the world.
If someone actually liked reading Watchmen, what are the TV shows / movies you could recommend? Even like Bhavesh Joshi came from Indian space. What are other films and TV shows like that?
I think Boys would be the one.
Yeah, and ये Watchmen से वैसे connected नहीं है, but ये भी एक DC की है. Like it's also a comic book. You can also watch the animated film. It's called Batman Under the Red Hood. And वो भी बहुत ज़्यादा like it has a little dark tone to it, but it's very hard hitting, and that all मतलब I can't say a lot about it right now, but
Batman Under the Red Hood.
Batman Under the Red Hood, yes.
Is it that? Is it? I don't know. Is it that one where you see one of his proteges?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
You see Jason Todd, and he's captured by Joker.
Yeah.
also a great thing about graphic novels is that you can pick it up and just read it, because again there is a continuity, but it's a very loose continuity among comics. So you can actually just pick up a graphic novel like Under the Red Hood or Watchmen, or even any graphic novel of Batman. Like, it has to be a graphic novel. That's the only difference it has to be, and you can just pick it up and read it because there's no specific continuity. Just it's like it's within the book only. You don't need to read extra or something. So that's one good thing for people who want to start comics and get into, like, start with graphic novels. And also one more thing, what Vinayak was saying, that after reading Watchmen, you might not like the general idea of heroes, because I think when you first announced this in the WhatsApp, the book club, so there I think I remember I was mentioning that you must know the superhero tropes before going into it, because again, like, you have to have that power fantasy as a kid also to relate to Night Owl's philosophy, because like if you are reading comics from your childhood and if you're seeing these cartoons and movies, like, you also fantasize about these superheroes. So if you have that positive idea before of these reconstruction, it'll be better, so that you'll be able to understand the mature themes and how the authors played with the typical tropes, like how some like superheroes always win, and in this one, this is the first comic where superheroes lose, and the villain is like done it 35 minutes ago, and the devastation and everything. So,
You just gave the spoiler to everyone who's watching the stream.
Are we not allowed?
Just said his delivery time. That's all.
Kabir is saying movie मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता.
Oh yeah, correct.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't
Yes.
seen that.
Very good recommendation.
It's a good movie. It's a very good movie.
So we've cracked
But how
Mard
is
Ko
that
Dard Nahi
same-
Hota, Bhavesh Joshi.
In
Is he a
that same vein,
superhero
I
in that
think-
film?
I think उसके पास एक ability होती है कि उसको actually में biologically दर्द नहीं होता because of some hormones जो missing थे या कुछ क्या था exactly. तो उस वजह से वो
Pain
super hero
sensors
बन गया
नहीं
था.
है?
उसने
I'm
judo या
so sorry,
karate
I'll
सीख लिया.
have to. Saurabh has commented. Saurabh is in the chats, guys. He said watch Chronicle 2012. If you like the. Yeah. I just had to appreciate and like just because Saurabh never comments, hardly comments.
Yeah.
But
You have to
yeah,
make
so we
sure.
have Bhavesh Joshi and we have Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota and Chronicle. What are other, like, would you also count boys in the same genre?
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah, very similar.
There is
Even in
another. There's another movie. It's got Ben Stiller in it. It's called Mystery Men. I think it's similar, like in the same way that superheroes who are just normal people wearing costumes. That I think is a movie that's very similar. And there's another one called Kick-Ass. I've seen only parts of it, but I think it is again the same. There's two. There's Kick-Ass and there's a movie.
Nice.
There's another film, मतलब वो बहुत ऐसे extremely उसकी कोई बहुत great storyline नहीं है, but it's a cool concept. It's a concept about what if Superman like came from Krypton and he wasn't a good person. It's called Brightburn, and it's a very dark take on that. Like if a child with superpowers come.
Oh yeah.
And
I've seen the trailer about.
He lets his negative emotions take over him.
Yeah.
What will happen then? And he has power like Superman.
There is one comic also, no? Red Sun or something, where Superman
Oh yes,
lands in
abhi
Russia.
the animated version bhi nikla. I think it's available on Prime. I was
it's a
actually
reimagining.
thinking of
Where he comes in Russia. That actually the comic has a different ending, which is much more crazier.
क्या नाम है उसका? Red Sun.
Yeah,
Red Sun.
Superman, something of the Red Sun or Son of Red. कुछ तो है ऐसा.
Red Sun is
Red
the
Sun.
name.
Red Sun.
Red Sun. I've seen a lot of
In the notes
animated
बना
DC films, but haven't read comics mostly.
Dude.
But there's also another जो भी आई है, Reign of the Supermen. That's
after
also,
Superman dies,
like,
no?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
so
what is it about Reign of the Superman?
So Reign of the Supermen is like Superman supposedly is dead. I won't tell you if he's dead or if he's not. But there are so many Supermen who come after him who are there to replace him. There is one billionaire, like a Batman guy, who makes his own Superman wala shield and everything, armor. Then there is this other guy, जिसको Lex Luthor ने बनाया. I think he'll be again. If you've seen Young Justice, जैसे the Superman का जो younger version है, that it's something like that. And there is this third guy जिसको किसी villain ने create किया. So the world is full of like these Supermen who are trying to prove themselves. We are the Superman. And you realize it's somewhat similar until like obviously the ending is good. happy.
There's
Yeah.
also
It's
the
actually-
Daredevil show, na? Netflix
Yeah.
का Daredevil show जो बहुत अच्छा बना है. That is very nice.
That's also based on a graphic
Someone-
novel by Frank Miller.
Yeah.
I think The Man Without Fear.
Man
Also, I
Without-
think the Vaani, what you were talking about, Red Sun, is the Reign of Superman is actually a second part of a old graphic novel called Death of Superman, which was the previous part of Reign of
Yes,
Superman. So it's like
yes.
part one is Death of Superman, then followed by Reign of Superman. But if you want to
Yeah.
read them collectively, it's one comic only, which is the Death of Superman. So,
Yeah. Someone has also commented Mega Mind. Like,
Oh yeah, that's a very good
बहुत
anti-superhero
funny है.
movie.
बहुत सही है.
बहुत सही है.
like एक थोड़ी off चीजें ये, but it's so nice reading Watchmen on an iPad because उसमें transitions इतने प्यारे होते हैं. Like this is called panel view, so I can just look at one panel
Yeah.
at once, and if I swipe, you get transitions like these कि वो slide करके then it will reveal the
Oh,
other half
smooth.
of the frame.
and you
And
can
it's-
zoom
Yeah.
in as well, probably.
Yeah, like वो zoom in करके ही देता है. You can read the dialogue अच्छे से. And मतलब उस हिसाब से कॉन्फ़िगर कर रखा है उसको कि वो एक एक पैनल आपको दिखाएगा एंड समटाइम्स दो पैनल के अलग अलग पार्ट से जूम इन करके आपको दिखाएगा, तो आपको मतलब यू सी अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ मूवमेंट इन द फ्रेम्स एज वेल. इट्स वेरी प्रिटी.
Is it because of an app? Yeah.
Kindle, it's the Kindle app on
Yeah.
iPad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
also, that's I think a complaint for Kindle also, which I wanted to mention regarding the debate episode you had the stream. That's also like,
Yeah.
why does Kindle doesn't have a colored theme? Because it's like always black and white. If it was colored, now I'm telling you, like, probably the perfect thing for comic book readers, especially like I think which like lessens the strain on your eyes and all those things. So, because I think there's one colored version which is I think like a tablet only, Kindle Fire HD or something. So I think there should be a Kindle colored version for comic books or graphic novels, just for the color.
If you read this on Kindle, it's just in black and white, the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
is it difficult to read because it's
not exactly, but you won't be able to appreciate the artistry in the full way. It'll be like a noir version of the existing comic book. So if you're into graphic and see the colors and popping and also, that's why you need like a colored thing. So
तो Rorschach पढ़ने में मजा ही नहीं आएगा if you can't see the blood. It's just
yeah,
समझ ही नहीं आएगा. सही में.
So I am so sorry, but I'll have to wrap the discussion now. We deserve, like Madhav se meri baat ho rahi thi, we deserve a special stream on comics and Watchmen at least, and we'll definitely do
Alan
that
Moore.
again. I hope.
yeah.
Yes.
Alan Moore for
Definitely.
sure.
Someone mentioned in the comments, Anurag, is this you? Injustice gods among us.
No, it's not me.
Okay.
But there's another Anurag.
Injustice.
We have an imposter.
Injustice मेरे को जहाँ तक पता है Injustice मैंने गेम खेला है, तो उस वीडियो गेम में एक स्टोरी लाइन चलती है. I don't know if there's a comic book for it.
there's a comic for
There
it.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gods Among Us is
Injustice
a
बहुत
comic.
ज्यादा अच्छी स्टोरी लाइन है. Like वो जस्टिस लीग के कैरेक्टर्स के ऊपर ही है, स्पेसिफिकली ऑल द बैटमैन एंड सुपरमैन एंड जोकर. एंड इनजस्टिस की स्टोरी लाइन से ही थोड़ा जैक स्नाइडर का भी यूनिवर्स मतलब अडैप्ट किया गया है. You should really watch like those dream sequence you can see in the Snyder cut where Batman is at the deserted place and
Exactly. Yeah. Oh,
पूरा Injustice की
interesting.
स्टोरी लाइन चल रही है. You should really like read Injustice.
That's a very good trivia, man.
Yeah.
Nice. But I'm so sorry, I'll have to cut this discussion session short. I think Vinay is still with us. Vinay, you can turn on your camera and your audio as well if you would like. Vinay was here very patient because he wanted to. So I'll just reveal the next book of the month. And I'm a little nervous about this book, like I'm usually am. But here is the. So I wanted to pick up something that was fantasy, but also that would be interesting and somebody would have recommended on the channel. So Dhruv Sehgal recommended this book when he came on the show, and it's a fantasy fiction and it's a time travel fiction, and it's called can anyone give drum rolls please? But yeah, this is the book Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I love the cover.
I love the cover as well.
Yeah, it
Oh,
has
yeah.
a cat, obviously, but it's a beautiful. Jitna maine padha, it has three major ingredients. One, it is about coffee, and it is not about coffee, but coffee is one of the things that will be there. There'll be a cat, and there is a cafe, But if I read from the back cover, it says, if you could go back, who would you want to meet? In a small back alley in Tokyo, there is a cafe which has been serving carefully brewed coffee for more than 100 years. But this coffee shop, it offers its customers a very unique experience, the chance to travel back in time. And this is from what I've heard, it's a beautiful story that explores this question: what would change if you would go back in time? And it's a very short read. It's about 212 pages long. My copy is 212 pages long. But eventually the journey into the past doesn't come without risks, and customers must sit in a particular seat. They cannot leave the cafe, and finally they must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. And that's the catch of the book.
How
So
cold?
I'm very excited. Yeah, you must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. So I hope a lot of you guys will be joining us again for next month. And has anyone read this book before? Because I think a lot of people have already read this book.
Yeah,
So
we
would
can see
you
in the
guys-
comments.
I've read it.
Nice.
Sagar has read it and explained data.
Cool. So I hope
I just
everyone
wanted to
would-
say thank you to Vaani for this initiative, because my interest in reading was declining and Vaani poured life into it. So I want to thank you for this initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vinay. That was very kind. But guys, I'll just end the stream, and we'll again be back with Watchmen stream. So if you guys had not read Watchmen abhi tak, please read it. Please watch the adaptations as well. Follow it up with the TV show. I think Madhav told us that it's not actually the adaptation of the book, but it's a follow-up sequel of the book. So do watch it, and we'll have a great discussion. Hopefully in the
Also-
next month. Yeah,
I'm
Madhav.
just gonna add one more thing, please. Also, like the people, like I think you shouldn't substitute the film or the adaptation with the source material. Like you should always
Yes.
keep the source material as the top priority, and should always read the comic first before watching it. So, yeah, just adding to your point. Yeah, so that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. And I hope all of you will pick up this book before the coffee gets cold.
Yay.
Okay, and I'll just end the stream. Good night. Have fun. Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.